To have you at the San Diego Alignment Workshop, Dawn. You've been to many of our events before, and always appreciate you joining and sharing your wisdom here. So you've been working in AI security and cybersecurity for well before I was a PhD student, and so really curious to hear what's sort of top of mind for you in AI security right now. Sort of what should people be thinking about? What's coming down the pipeline?
Great. So first, thanks a lot for having me here, and then thanks again for hosting the wonderful workshop. Yes, I've been to many of the events, and they're all so wonderful. Great people, learning a lot, so much energy, and really important for the field. And so thanks a lot for the great work. Yes, so yeah, it's a really good question. I think AI security now it's really a really important time. We are literally reaching some, I would say, pivotal moments. And what's top of mind? And there are many things to talk about. Really, what's top of mind? I would say it's two things, but they are actually also intertwined. It's related. One is we have been doing a lot of work on the studying the frontier AI's impact in cybersecurity. And AI is a dual-use technology. It can have both the attacker side and defender side. Who AI is going to have more attacker, defender, how it's going to impact the landscape of cybersecurity. So that's one side. On the other side, so as you know, I've been teaching this MOOC, this massive open online course on agentic AI. We have now over 32,000 enrolled globally in the series and so on. So when I started teaching the class last fall, more than a year ago, back then, actually, there wasn't so much talk about agents and so on. But suddenly this year, but back then I could see that agent is the next frontier. That's why I started teaching the class. But suddenly this year, it's the year of agents. And I almost never see such big explosion. So agentic AI has exploded. And there's so much, it's so dynamic. There's a lot of course, the agents are taking actions and so on. So there's a lot of risk there. So I think safety and security for agentic AI, that's another huge topic. And we really need to be well prepared for that as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And maybe just, I was reflecting on recently what happened in 2025. And people say 2025 is the year of aging, but it really was sort of until maybe December 2024, there was no widespread deployment of coding agents. And even back in February, with things like Claude Code 3.7 Sonnet that was just reached beta, that was sort of a turning point where at least my team started saying, oh, this is actually useful to us. This isn't just like a toy. We can actually use it to do some basic things. But it was still only solving maybe sort of half of the task on something like software engineering bench. And now we're sort of blown well past sort of 70%. And one thing that came up just a few weeks ago was that Anthropic detected and disrupted what they believe was a state-sponsored use of their Claude Code agent to semi-autonomously launch cyber attacks against around 30 institutions, from financial institutions, government agencies, big tech companies, and they were successful in sort of several of these instances. So I'm curious, given that you've worked on things like CyberGym and BountyBench, these kinds of rigorous benchmarks of what systems are capable of in the cyber domain. What do we have to expect in the next year or two in terms of offensive cyber capabilities? Should we expect things like what Anthropic found and disrupted to become commonplace, or is this sort of a one-off attack that people were? I'm sure state-sponsored groups are also trying to beta test these tools. Just because someone uses it once doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to become a sort of common part of their playbook.
Okay, yeah, this is a great question. I think there are a few points here. So first, yes, as our recent work has shown, the CyberGym, BountyBench, these benchmarks really has shown that AI capability in cybersecurity is increasing really fast, and also is really essentially hitting an inflection point, I would say. So for example, in our CyberGym benchmark example, we created this close to 200 large-scale, widely distributed real-world software, open source software, and task agents to both try to find previous known vulnerabilities and also to find new vulnerabilities. These are called 0 days. So the agents are doing a great job in finding previous known vulnerabilities. And also they actually, with a very low cost, just a few dollars, they actually found 0 days, like they found 35 0 days. And keep in mind that these are security critical software. So they have been actually fast tested over a long period of time. And still in this case, even just with very low cost, the agents were able to find 0 days. Our agent found 35 0 days. And a number of CVEs have been issued for them. And also a number of these have been patched since we reported them. So this is one trend, is that AI capabilities in cybersecurity is increasing really fast. And it's hitting already a quite operational level for a lot of these tasks that are important in the offense side. And coupled with, so this is actually why I actually have been saying this for a while. I think I'm probably one of the first to talk about this, is that with the AI, there is a lot of different types of risks, but I really strongly believe that cybersecurity is one of the biggest risk domains. And also I think it will be probably the first risk domain where we are going to see actually large-scale real-world risks, and that's actually taking place. And that's because in security, today already, we have attackers have diverse incentives to launch attacks, ranging from nation states to organized crime to even script kiddies and so on. So there's diverse incentives, and attackers today already are launching large-scale attacks. They are causing huge financial damage and so on. So now with the AI, so attackers also, they are smart. They are always trying to like up their game and so on. So now with the AI, with increased AI capabilities, so when you put this together, I do think that we can foresee what's going to happen. I think big changes are going to come, and offense side is going to get a lot stronger.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's both fascinating and terrifying. As you say, attackers have always been one of the first adopters of this technology, and of course, AI is very dual-use technology. Coding agents are a huge part of many of these companies' revenue sources. It's a big part of what they're trying to make more capable, but fundamentally, you take a very capable software engineer, they don't need that much extra training to be quite good at offensive cybersecurity. But I guess we might also hope that there's a lot of defensive applications to this. So do you have a perspective on how the offense-defense balance might shift? Because people have been automating finding vulnerabilities for a while with things like fuzzing, and that's, which is just sort of, for people who don't know, is injecting random noise into inputs basically to find where edge cases where a system might misbehave. And this is now a really core part of a lot of sort of defensive cybersecurity before major applications are released. So the optimistic side might say, oh, well, Google has a lot of compute and have frontier AI systems, so they can, penetration test Android with their AI systems and it'll be more secure than ever. And then the pessimistic side would say, oh, but the attacker only needs to find 1 0 day for it to be a big deal, right? So even if AI systems can, in absolute terms, improve the security of a software, that's not going to be enough. Should I be optimistic or pessimistic here?
Yes, this is a very good question. So we actually, we have a recent paper and actually goes into more depth to actually analyze the situation, right? Exactly, whether given AI as a dual-use technology, whether it's going to help attacker more or the defender more. So unfortunately, with our analysis, it shows that in the near term, AI unfortunately is going to help attacker more due to the natural asymmetry between attack side and defense side. So as you already mentioned, that's one of the asymmetry is that attacker only needs to win once, only need to find one successful attack, whereas defenders need to successfully defend against all different types of attacks in order to succeed. So that's one type of natural asymmetry. And also there are, in the paper, we also list out there are many other natural asymmetry. Unfortunately, all favor attackers more in the near term. So for example, also the cost is different. So for attacker side, okay, so attacker need to find vulnerabilities, create exploits, and so on. But for each vulnerability and exploit the attacker finds, for the defender side, to actually fix this, to patch this, actually, this whole process is actually very costly. You have to develop the patch, you have to test the patch, and then you have to then try to then disseminate and deploy the patch. And then when you deploy the patch, you need to still do more testing and so on. So actually, for each active cycle patching, actually it can cost huge amount. And also there's a severe lag. So for example, there's estimates that in hospitals, the average deployment time for deploying a patch after the patch becomes available is about 470 days.
Oh, wow, okay.
Right, so these are just some examples. And also for attackers are much more tolerant to failure. If this attack doesn't work, they can try another one. But what they care is the scale, and AI can help them scale. Whereas for defender side, defender needs to have reliable, robust defenses, and they can't deploy defense that actually brings system down, for example, or negatively impact the normal operation of the system. So that's why defender sides tend to be more cautious in deploying these cutting edge technologies and so on. So for all these reasons, unfortunately, we do think that in the near term, AI is going to essentially help attackers more. But we hope that in the long run, we, as a community as a whole, we take the right actions so we can actually shift this balance. So in the long term, still defenders can win.
Right. Okay. So effectively, at a purely technological level, maybe it's quite symmetric between attackers and defenders, but because fixing a vulnerability is a lot more expensive than exploiting that vulnerability, this is something that is really favoring attackers. And then there's this big deployment lag. I knew people were slow to deploy patches, but I would never have guessed it would be more than a year, 470 days. I'm going to be more gentle with my team now when I realize that they're, a month out of date on OS update. So that could also give this kind of quite long window for attackers to exploit. I mean, more than a year is crazy in that we didn't even see these AI-powered attacks.
And it can be very long tail. Actually, there are a lot of legacy systems even now, especially actually in physical, like cybercritical physical systems and so on. The tail can be even longer.
Right. So I guess sort of conservatism of if it's not broke, don't fix it, can mean more stability that you often want in sort of critical infrastructure, but also then is very bad in this rapidly moving cyber domain. So you mentioned that in the long run, you think defenders can still win out. So maybe, what are some reasons for optimism here? Like, what would you like to see people, working on to boost defensive applications of AI and ultimately solve some of these cybersecurity challenges?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's a very good question. So overall, in security, both in terms of my past decades of experience and also from the field experience over the past decades, when we look at defense in cybersecurity, we actually look at over the history, there's an evolution of 3 different paradigms that we call for defense. So in the beginning, we started with reactive defense. So these are attacks happen, you need to be able to detect for example, the malware, and then you need to block it, you need to drop it and so on. And so that's what we call reactive defense. And I think for reactive defense, AI can still help attackers more than defenders. AI can help attackers to develop more sophisticated, stealthy malware and can evade detection and can happen much faster and so on. So that's the first paradigm that we call reactive defense. And the second paradigm relates to what we were just discussing. We call it's a proactive defense through bug finding. So basically from the defender side, before attackers try to attack, we can do bug finding on our own code and then try to patch it before attackers finds the vulnerability. So the issue with that is, as we know, the there's statistics software. I think every like few hundred lines of code, every 1,000 lines of code, there's a certain number of vulnerabilities and so on. So basically, software has a lot of bugs, and AI can help us, can help defenders to find bugs. But however, you may never be able to find all the bugs and vulnerabilities in the code. And for attackers, even when attackers have a lower resource than defenders, but attackers can get lucky because bug finding sometimes is a random process. And even from our work, like CyberGym, we actually showed that different models, different agents, they actually can find different bugs and different vulnerabilities. So in this case, so attacker can still get lucky and find vulnerabilities before the defender finds it and able to patch it. So in this paradigm, we still think that, as we discussed, attackers can still win. So this leads to what I'm most excited about and optimistic about is the third paradigm that we call proactive defense through secure by design and safe by design. So these are essentially approaches where we build systems that are actually provably secure, so that we can offer provable guarantees that the system actually satisfies certain types of security properties and so on. And also there are various approaches and techniques to make it easier to build a system this way with a safe by design, secure by design. And so some of my earlier work actually was in this space as well. That we were able to develop a new approach for building, for example, web applications that actually have provable guarantees that is completely free of certain classes of web vulnerabilities, such as cross-site scripting vulnerabilities and so on as well. And also with AI, we hope that we can help automate theorem proving and program verification. So this can also help us to then not just generate code like today, where the generated code has no guarantees of security and oftentimes has a lot of vulnerabilities. Now, with this AI-enabled theorem proving, program verification, together with program synthesis, we hope that we can also automatically generate provably secure code. So in this way, we completely then, I think for the first time, defenders can actually really win over attackers in the sense that the provably secure code can completely eliminate certain classes of vulnerability. So we are no longer in this cat and mouse game. You try to find bugs and to see who can find bugs earlier and so on. So I hope, so in this sense, I do think that with the increased AI capabilities, in the long run, it can help defenders to have the upper hand.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing that with us, Dawn. And yeah, very excited to see formal verification of a more secure coding practices being enabled by AIs. So once again, thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Ara, for having me.